welcome to another episode of TLG Talks. I'm your host, or one of your hosts, Jon Nieh, one of the partners at Trowbridge Law Group, and this is our podcast where we interview people, talk about stuff in the real estate industry, syndications, stuff that affects our clients in our market. Today, I'm joined with a very, very special guest, my good buddy, Sean Pan. Hey, Sean, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah. So Sean, you actually have your own pretty successful podcast, right? Called Everything Real Estate Investing.
Yep. My podcast is called the Everything Real Estate Investing Show. We've been releasing since late of 2018, and we have over 190 episodes so far. Wow.
That's great. You also, I think, have like a meetup group that you kind of host in the Bay Area, right?
That's right. So it's called, you can find it on meetup.com/everythingrei. We have over 1,200 members, and we actively get, a couple dozen people who actively come join our virtual meetup sessions. We can't meet live anymore, but we used to meet live twice a month in San Jose.
Yeah. I need to come out to that actually, since I'm in the Bay Area now.
You should.
Once we're able to do, well, I guess I could come to your virtual events.
Yeah. We actually had one about 2 days ago, and it was a pretty good conversation where it's just pure networking. So we break them out into these breakout rooms, and then they all get to talk with each other.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I'll definitely try to make it the next one. But we go pretty far back, right, Sean? I've known you for what? At least
12 years.
12 years now?
12 years, yeah.
We went to, so for those that don't know us, Sean and I, we both went to UCLA, went to the same college. We were in the same fraternity. Do you want to mention Lambda Phi Epsilon at all? You want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, whatever you want to talk about.
No, we'll save that for another topic. I mean, let's just leave it at that. Lambdas was definitely a good experience, and we made a lot of friends. I met you, so we expanded our networks. It was definitely worth it.
Yep.
But anyways, yeah, the reason why I wanted to bring you on the show is you weren't always like in real estate, right? Like I think you were a mechanical engineer. Is that right?
So I was actually electrical engineering. I was working at a defense contractor for aerospace defense. So things that I had I had no background in aerospace, but I somehow landed in that. I was working on satellites for, 7 years before I eventually transitioned to real estate full time.
Mm. And why did you decide to switch?
I decided to switch on day one. Pretty much like the first week I started working there, I realized that I can't be in this industry for the rest of my life. My coworkers were great people, but they were like my dad's age. And I was like, if I just stay in this business, in this current occupation, then my whole life will go by and I'll end up just like them. And they weren't like the people that I aspired to be. Ultimately, I started reading a lot of books. I started deciding if I want to do something, I need to put in the effort to change whatever I can now when I'm young, take the risk now. And that's basically what I started doing.
Mm. So what, I guess, was your first foray into real estate investing? Like, did you buy a house? Like, how did that go?
Yeah, I'll tell you the brief story. So basically, when I decided to go into real estate, I tried many different businesses, right? You might remember that I was selling stuff on Amazon, like stupid selfie sticks. These businesses didn't work very well. I got introduced to real estate through Bigger Pockets, listened to their podcast a lot. I started scrolling on Quora.com, the question and answer website. And then they were saying that if you want to get into real estate, the best thing you should do is to expand your network. And to do that, go to as many meetups as you can. So that's what I did. I went on meetup.com. I signed up for almost every single meetup locally, and I would just show up. But then after a year of just showing up and not doing anything, it felt kind of bad. You go up to somebody, you say, hey, I'm an aspiring real estate investor. I have no deals. They can be like, okay, great. And then walk away from you. You have nothing to contribute to this conversation.
Yeah.
So after a year of that, I decided, okay, I need to try it, take risks, just see how it goes. There's a lot of things that hold you back before you do your first deal. And that's like the analysis by paralysis, right? Like you get stuck. You don't want to do something because you're scared of the worst case scenario. But then ultimately, I decided to buy my first rental property in Jacksonville, Florida. During the whole process, I was nervous. It was my first time buying a property out of state, and I didn't know how to trust the realtor, the inspector, contractors, or property manager. But the whole thing went smoothly. It was great. I started getting cash flow. After that first property, I bought another property almost immediately after because I was like, oh, the process is actually pretty good once you have a set team. And, just by doing that, I realized that, wow, real estate is great because, You're able to buy a property, it cash flows, it appreciates, your tenants are paying all of your expenses plus your mortgage. Sounds good to me.
How'd you find that first property in Florida? Did you just reach out to local realtors? Like,
Yeah. So the very first time I went to a real estate meetup group, they were showing us like these top 10 lists of cities to buy in. And then every month I would go to the same meetup, the list would change, the rankings, but like some cities would consistently be on those top 10 lists. So I knew that these are at least places that you can start looking into. And of those lists, the city that stood out to me was Jacksonville because, we're from California. We're not used to snow or crazy tornadoes. At the time, I thought hurricanes weren't a big deal. So I ended up looking into Jacksonville. And so once I decided on the property location, I went on biggerpockets.com on their forums and I just asked, hey guys, what are some of the best zip codes to invest in for Jacksonville? I'm from California. I don't know anything about the market. And I just got, a torrent of people who were commenting and saying, oh, these are good zip codes, stay away from these areas, blah, blah, blah. And I realized that these are proactive people who have an investor mindset. They're not your typical real estate agents who is going to tell you how pretty the fence is or there's a beautiful tree in the backyard. Like, I'm an investor, I don't care. So I called all those people. And of the people I called, some are not responsive, some are very bad on the phone. But there was one guy who was really good and he took the time to explain everything to me. So I felt like I could trust him. And then, from there, I asked him for the other connections. Like, hey, do you have a good property manager that you recommend? He said, yeah, there's a guy that blah, 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 connected me with that guy. And once I decided on who my team was, they started sending me deals. And of the deals they sent me, obviously I passed on many of them because they seemed like pretty whatever deals. But then one deal came in that seemed very good. It was on the market for a long time. It was owned by another investor. There's a tenant in the home. So basically, if there's a tenant in the home, you can't just move in and kick them out, right? They have to live there to the rest of their lease. So the only people who would buy that house are other investors like myself. So that was an opportunity and we took it.
Interesting. Cool. Is that still kind of how you source deals now? Is just by going on Bigger Pockets and like finding hot markets and reaching out to people in those areas?
I would say that's a really good strategy if you're brand new and you don't have connections already, because you're going to get the best deal if you know like a wholesaler who has just this hot lead and you're going to be on their list. But if you don't, then network with other real estate agents or property managers who happen to have deals, then they could send your way. And they can do that pre-screen. Like there are thousands of properties on the market. They're going to be able to tell you, hey, these ones look like potential ones. Do you want it? Check it out. Like my girlfriend, she recently just purchased a few properties in Texas. And we basically did the same strategy. We just helped her find the location, find the team, and then the team members started giving her deals.
Wow, interesting. How do you, I guess, analyze the deals, like whether or not to like go or no go, right? Do you use some sort of like IRR calculation, or what are like the metrics that you kind of look at?
Yeah, I actually followed Bigger Pockets metrics a lot, especially when I was just getting started. One of the easiest methods that obviously isn't great for sophisticated investors, but it's great for brand new investors, is to just use the 1% rule. Like are you familiar with that, what that is?
No, I don't think so.
So the 1% rule is just a quick rule of thumb. It just says that your monthly rents should be 1% of the purchase price or higher. So if the property costs $100,000, then you should be making $1,000 a month for rents. It's just like a super safe way to say, all right, if I'm making $1,000 a month off a $100,000 property, it's for sure going to pay all of my expenses and my mortgage, and I'll be cash flowing, I'll be safe. Of course, people in the syndication space don't use that because they look more on like IRR and more sophisticated terms, but it's a good rule of thumb. And when I was just getting started, it helped a lot. So that's what I was looking for. Did it pass the 1% rule? I use Bigger Pockets a lot and they have their own calculators, but I feel like if you're new, you should understand how the numbers work and you should build your own calculator. So I did that. I just built my own calculator. Yeah. Actually, I give them away for free if anyone wants to. Yeah, calculator. Yeah.
Wow, I'm surprised you don't monetize that. I feel like you could like license it or sell it, or
I mean, I could, but it works as a lead generator.
Yeah.
You know how sometimes you guys give out free PDFs or whatever for an email? For me, it's like, hey guys, if you guys want this calculator, just go on the website and download it.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. So it sounds like most of your deals are like residential, right? You buy mostly single family houses. but they're rented out. Is that right?
Yeah. So I rent out, my Jacksonville portfolio is just 2 single families and 1 fourplex. And
Mm.
it's, yeah, purely rental to residential. I haven't done any commercial deals yet.
Mm. Do you
Tried
want
to in
to?
the
Is that
past
the
though,
plan?
but it didn't go so well.
Mm. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Uh, so I guess long story short, in end of 2017, I got really lucky. We flipped a house and we made $300,000 in profit. You know, plus add that to my salary of that year, I think I made like 500K total, right? Before taxes, of course. But I was feeling like a big shot, you know? It's like, okay, I can do whatever I want. And I like Jacksonville a lot. I started calling a lot of these commercial brokers in Jacksonville to ask them if they had any good multifamily deals. And you know, of course, most of them were at a pretty low cap rate and pretty expensive, to be honest. But there's just one deal in this area that was 32 units for just $1.3 million. I was like, dude, I bought a flip for 1.3 million, like in as is condition. This is a 32 unit complex, grossing like 19,000 a month. I was like, this seems like a good deal. But then I came into a lot of challenges, and most of the challenges came from financing. Because in the commercial space, it's not so easy to just get a $1 million loan for a $1.3 million property. You need to have a guarantor, and that guarantor's net worth needs to be that $1 million, right? I didn't really understand how the whole bridge concept worked, right? Like you have to buy it, rehab it first, get it operational, and then you can finance it with traditional debt. Because if your DSCR isn't at a certain percentage on day one, they just won't finance you, you know?
Yeah.
I was younger then, so I didn't really understand how the whole process worked. And we went back and forth with the seller. I spent a lot of money actually on the purchase agreement because we agreed on LOI, but then you have to actually convert that into a purchase agreement. But unlike the residential space where there's standard templates, you just fill in the numbers and boom, you need to go through an attorney to write a custom purchase agreement, which is like, what? Yeah, lesson learned.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. It's expensive, right? You got to pay the attorneys to do all that work. It's a lot of work.
Revisions,
But
right?
yeah.
Redlining. Oh, go back and forth. Like, oh man, we should have had all this done during the LOI phase, not now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you learn from that experience, obviously, right? So is your plan to, eventually get into the commercial space later, or are you, pretty set on staying in the residential space? Like, what's your plans for the future, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. So right now, I actually work for a hard money lending company, and I do, the podcasts and the videos and stuff. So these are all like this content creation realm that leads into monetization through either, selling something that we have or selling loans, or I'm an agent too, right? We can sell our services as an agent. And then the goal is to have the capital stack from those businesses to then buy long-term rentals, whether that be single family homes, multifamily, or even commercial multifamily. Ideally, I would love to be in the position that I was back in 2017, 2018. And instead of buying more flips, funnel that money into those large commercial multifamily assets. Personally, I'm not, I don't know, I'm not in the syndication mindset right now, maybe in the future. But right now, my goal is to just buy those big multifamilies under my own like personal LLC versus, going the syndication route.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So why not syndication, right? Like, I know you're saying you're not in the right mindset, but like, what's holding you back?
Yeah. Well, okay. So one thing is I've borrowed money from friends before, right? We currently have a situation where I'm borrowing money from a friend, but then because of the project didn't go as well as we hoped, now we're at a loss. And when you have a loss and you're holding someone else's money, it's like the worst feeling in the world, right? Of course, like when you're first getting started and you understand the concept of syndication, taking everyone's money and then buying this huge, like $100 million complex, it sounds very exciting. Downside sucks really, really hard, So there's a balance, right? Of course, there are many people who are in syndications who do very, very, very well. I guess maybe I'm not at a point in my mindset right now where I can feel responsible for other people's money. And on top of that too, when you are owning the property yourself, you can do whatever you want, even if you mismanage it, it's your fault, whatever. But if you have someone else's money, you need to be on your tip top, very best. Like you cannot risk anything. And so you no longer work for yourself anymore. You really do work for your investors. And that's not really where I personally want to be at this moment. Who knows in the future, right?
Yeah, I know. I mean, we always tell people it's not for everybody, right? You have to, understand that the care and maintenance of your investors is number one priority. And some people don't, realize that or know that going in, and they just think, oh, like, I just raise a bunch of money and do a bunch of deals. But no, I mean, it's your relationship, right? These are people that you're going to be friends with and communicating with for years, maybe for the rest of your life. So the last thing you want to
Absolutely.
do is lose their money, right? So it's
I
good
have a
that
lot of
you're.
people who contact me because I have the podcast, YouTube, and even the meetup group. And they ask me,
Mhm.
hey, I have money. Do you have a project that I can invest in? I have people who ask me, hey, do you want to help me raise money for my deals? In both cases, right now, I'm kind of saying, I don't know if that's a good idea because, if something happens, am I responsible? Right? I'm going to feel guilty for it.
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, the most I do is usually I just connect them with someone else. Say, hey, go talk to him directly. Don't go
Yeah,
through me. Like, you can make your own decision afterwards.
yeah, that's good. Um, I guess last thing I wanted to ask you was, do you have any pieces of advice or suggestions for people that are just getting started out? Things that you kind of wish you did differently, maybe, or I don't know, just whatever parting wisdom that you have for first timers.
Yeah. Uh, Definitely right now is probably the best time that you can educate yourself. So by listening to this podcast, by going on blogs, YouTube videos, you can learn everything, theorize everything, because I personally think that the market is still very unstable and there might be some opportunities coming up in the near future. So there's no need to rush and pull the trigger. You can just take your time and learn, but during the next upswing, you'll be ready. You'll have, as I say, dry powder to go in and buy more properties. Personally, if I was in this situation, let's say 5 years ago when I first got started, I wish I documented the process. I wish I documented my feelings and what I was learning at the time, because now obviously I have these platforms, and whenever you have these platforms, you wish you started 3 months or 3 years earlier because all those things grow exponentially. So just, yeah, think about what your overall strategy is, learn a lot. I would say right now is a great time to join as many meetups as you can because they're all virtual anyway. You don't have to really go anywhere. Make those connections, find out who the big players are in your local community or doing what you want to do, and then somehow try to provide value to them, either
Mhm.
by doing the work that they don't want to do or by finding them deals. Get in their circle, learn, and then, like I said, when things are good, go hard.
Awesome, man. So where can people find your podcast again, or your meetup group, or if they want to contact you, you want to give them your contact information?
Sure. So first things first, if you guys want to send me an email, my email is Sean, SEAN, at everythingrei.com. REI like real estate investing. The website is everythingrei.com. You can find my podcast on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. It's called the Everything Real Estate Investing Show with Sean Pan. And I also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Sean Pan REI. And if you guys need hard money loans, feel free to hit me up and we can help you there as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here and taking the time to sit with me, Sean. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.